Faye. I'm a fifth-year graduate student in the neurobiology department. I'm originally from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I'm the mother of twins, Roy and Etta, who are going to be 3 in June.
And I'm Carlos Tavares. I'm a third-year student in the PhD sociology program. I'm originally from the Cape Verde Islands off the west coast of Africa, and I have 2 children, McKenna, who is 7, and Micah, who is 2. Before we get started, we wanted to let you know that this session will be recorded, and a link will be emailed to all admitted students. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, our first question are, what are some fun and inexpensive family activities close to campus? That's a great thing to think about right now that the weather's getting a lot warmer in North Carolina. We're lucky that Durham has a lot of great parks. Both on campus, you can go to Duke Gardens, which is a beautiful arboretum, and they have ducks and animals to look at, as well as lots of cool plants, and it's free for students to bring your families. Also, there's just lots of parks in the Durham park system that are great to go to and also free. We like to go to the farmers market a lot just to look at all the people and try some new fruits and vegetables, and there's lots of vendors there and food trucks, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, so my family as well, we like to go to parks. We've come to the gardens a lot, like Alex mentioned. And so, we're really close to campus. There are lots of good parks that have different types of activities for different ages. So there's a park that's near, which is close to campus, a few miles, but it's near the Jordan High School, and that has like tire swings and like a little trail and other things that you can enjoy with your kids there. So those are things that are free and that we've had fun doing.
There's a lot of good museums in the area too, that are not exactly free but are pretty inexpensive, especially if you get a family membership and you can go as many times as you want all year long. And we go to the Museum of Life and Science in Durham a lot.
Yeah, we've gone to the Museum of Life and Science, and then not exactly close to campus, but about 20 minutes away in Raleigh are a couple, cool, not so expensive things to do. So there's Pullen Park, which is in Raleigh, that has, has like a train that goes around the park. They have like paddle boats and other types of things, which are all only like $1 for each ticket. So we've taken our family there a lot. There's also a marbles museum, which is only $5 for kids, and then the Museum of Natural History, which is right next door, which is free to the public. So within 20 minutes or so, there are lots of things to do for families that are not that expensive. The next question is, it says, can you provide advice on financial stability or how to maintain a family in Durham on a PhD stipend? That's a good question. So, okay, I'll just start with us and how we've done that. So, my wife and I moved here, and we had just McKenna, and then Micah was born after that. So my wife currently works full-time, and our kids, and this is something that may come up later, but our kids are on the Duke health insurance plan. So that has helped in terms of, being financially stable for us. So I can't necessarily speak to how would it be to just maintain yourself on one particular income, just on the Duke stipend.
Yeah, so I also have the Duke stipend, which and my husband was a graduate student during most of our time in Durham, and he recently got his PhD. So we had 2 student stipends, and we found that like more than enough because the cost of living in Durham is really low compared to a lot of other cities or areas where you might find similar universities. So we found that was great. We were able to buy a house during grad school, which we didn't really expect in a lot of other places we looked at.
Right.
And since we were going to be here for a while, that was a good investment for us, and it's nice to have our own space. And then, our kids are in daycare since we're both working, and we've been fortunate to take advantage of Duke has a childcare stipend for graduate students. And so that puts some money every month towards their daycare bill, which we found really helpful.
Yeah, we also took advantage of that, and that has been very helpful in terms of being able to focus on the program and not necessarily having to worry about footing the whole cost. As most of you know, daycare is expensive, but the graduate school subsidy really helps towards that cost. So.
Yeah, and since we're already speaking about it, I saw one of the questions coming up is about the childcare subsidy, so maybe we'll just talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
It says, how much approximately are childcare subsidies towards childcare if student is eligible? So I think to be eligible, first of all, you have to be a graduate student in good standing at Duke, and your partner has to also be either working full-time or going to school full-time or otherwise unable to care for your children full-time. And so if that's true, I think it's sort of rated by number of children you have, and I want to say it's 5,000 per year for one and maybe 8 for two. So that, makes a big difference for a lot of people.
Yeah, and they have some requirements on like what types of facilities. So I think it has to be at least
I think it's 4 or 5 star.
4 or 5 star rated facility. But yeah, so yeah, it's pretty generous of a subsidy, and definitely helps with the cost of the childcare. And I think you can get it for up to 3 years. Is that?
I'm not sure the
Okay.
cap. Haven't kicked me off yet.
Right. No, I just spoke to the person in charge recently, and I think they said it's generally like a 3-year cap per child. But
I also like the flexibility of it where it's not like you have to use it at one child care facility on campus or something. So since my husband doesn't work on campus, it's more convenient for us to send our kids to daycare close to where we live. And the stipend's eligible, as you said, for any 4 or 5 star rated daycare, so you don't have to use just one. So one other questions are, what are medical facilities like for expecting mothers? That's actually a really great thing about coming to Durham is the Duke healthcare system is top notch. And I did my prenatal care there, and my kids were delivered at Duke. But there's also a variety of OBGYNs in the area affiliated with Duke or its partner hospital, Duke Regional Hospital, as well as some people who want to go to a birth center. They go to Chapel Hill. There's like a midwife practice in Chapel Hill that's pretty big. And so I found like the care to be great. And it was pretty affordable considering I was on student health insurance and I didn't know what the maternity benefits would be like until we decided to have children. And it's really pretty good. Everything was very well covered, and there's a cap on how much you pay out of pocket per year per family. And so that was really helpful for us for planning because you knew how much money it was going to cost for the whole thing together rather than waiting until you got the bills and then figuring out how much you had to pay.
Right. Yeah, so my son was born here. He was born at UNC hospital, and we had a really great experience as well. Like Alex mentioned, most of the hospitals here have top-notch quality. They have neonatal centers and children's hospitals and very adequate resources to deal with any types of problems that might come up. And like you mentioned, the aspect of knowing what you were gonna owe and the student health insurance being actually pretty good for maternity was really helpful. All right. The next question, it says, this person said, I want my wife to have a similar insurance as I will, or something that can cover her expenses in case of accidents or illnesses. How can I do that? Well, you can add a spouse and your children to the Duke insurance, which right now is through Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. Your part of the health insurance, if you get if your department offers an assistantship or a fellowship, is usually covered by the graduate school. And then to add, I'm trying to remember what it was this year. I want to say it was around $2,700. I don't remember correctly, but my wife is on our insurance. It's somewhere in that range, and then it's a little bit less expensive than to add children. So we found the health insurance through Duke to be very adequate. The network is large, and the out-of-pocket money in terms of co-pays and other types of expenses are low. I haven't really explored other options just because my wife has been on the Duke plan, but yeah.
One of the things that we didn't realize initially about the health insurance premium for children is it's the rate. I think it's about $2,000 per children, and that's not per child, which we didn't read carefully at first. So that was kind of a nice surprise to us that the $2,000 covers both our kids rather than $2,000 per child. So keep that in mind if you have more than one child, that it's rated like that. One of the questions coming up also on health insurance is if I don't get health insurance now, will I have the opportunity to opt in at a later date? Um, it would be best to check with the student health website. They have a really extensive information section about the student health plans, but my understanding is there are different enrollment periods throughout the year. So if you don't come to graduate school and opt in right away, there's other chances to enroll, but it's usually done on the academic calendar from what I understand.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think there are certain conditions for which you can opt in. So they have open enrollment periods where you can then opt in and join the student health insurance, but those are more limited in what those can be. I don't know all the specifics of that. Um, but, oh, and the other thing I wanted to say is, um, I lost my train of thought. I don't really remember. I was going to say something else. If I remember, I'll jump in and say something. The next question, it says, are there activities for families sponsored by Duke that helps connect to other students and family? This is a great question, and the answer to it is yes. So the grad school has a listserv and a small organization that's called Grad Parents, and they host events. So this year they had something at the Museum of Life and Science. Last year they had something, or it might have been in the fall, they had something, the circus, before they had Disney on Ice, where they usually sponsor tickets for families. And there you're able to sort of see other people and connect with other students who have families. But then so besides the big events, they also have usually a lunch periodically, and events that they will sponsor here on campus as well.
Yeah, we've gone to a few of these grad parent sponsored events and they're really fun. It's cool to see your friends that you know have kids, but then to meet a bunch of other graduate students that you would have never known or also have families and hear about sort of how they're balancing doing their research and their classes with taking care of their families. So I found it really neat to meet the other people as well as to like do the fun activities that they're providing for us. The other great thing about that grad parents group is it's just a good resource. There's a list serve that they run, as well as there's a student president and then a staff member who's the program coordinator who's really great. And so if you ever have questions about what daycares are great or what public schools people are interested in sending their children to, or just, if you have you want to buy or sell baby gear, it's a great way to like meet other people on campus with kids and just send emails through the listserv. The next question is is it safe for everyone to ride a bike or walk around Duke and its surroundings during the evenings? I'm not a big bike rider, so I can't speak to that. I know there's some routes around campus that have bike lanes and others that don't, so I imagine, practice good cycling safety and pick bike routes if you can, because then the cars will be more aware of you and you'll have the space to cycle safely. But in terms of I do come to the lab and work at night and I feel safe on campus. There's a safe ride program if you have to park far away from your building that you can call in the evenings and get like a van ride to your car or wherever you need to go around campus. And there are some parking facilities close, so I happen to be lucky and park near where I work. So I just park my car and walk, and it's very well lit, and there's emergency call boxes along the way in case I needed to ever get help. So I feel safe doing that, but exercise caution.
Yeah, I would generally say that I've not had I'm not a bike rider either, but I do walk on campus late at night when I'm generally working in the office. Another thing I'll say is that at least near my building, the parking lots after 5 p.m. So generally the lots that are close to some of the buildings are reserved for faculty and staff and others who use those lots. But then after 5 p.m., graduate students can swipe their cards and have access to some of those lots. So generally, if people are working late in the office, many of them will move their cars closer to our building. But I walk through the gardens late at night. I've never had any problems or anything like that. So yeah. The next question is, what are the best neighborhoods that are close to Durham for families other than suburbs? I don't live in Durham, but I have a few friends who live in Durham. They live near the Watts Elementary School, which is near East Campus, and that's a sort of favorite neighborhood for a lot of faculty members. Live in that neighborhood, and from the conversations that I've had with the friends in that department, in my department, they've found that to be a good neighborhood. But Alex lives in Durham, so I'll let her speak
Sure.
more to that.
Yeah, so I live in northern Durham, near Duke Regional Hospital, and I really like it up there because it's really quiet, and we have a big yard and like a fenced yard for our kids and our dogs and a garden. So it feels like not very urban or very suburban. It's almost like pretty rural, which I really like. Whereas I have friends that live much closer to campus in apartments, and it's, they can walk to lots of restaurants and stores, and it's a much more urban feel. And then I know people that sort of live in between, where they live in neighborhoods that have a good community of people with children and a lot of similar aged families living close together. As you said, Watts Hillendale is a popular neighborhood. We go to the park there a lot. It's really a lot of
Yeah, that's
kids and
cool.
a lot of nice playground equipment. And then there's also a pretty good community of people living in southern Durham, kind of near South Point Mall. I know a
That's
lot of
right.
people
Yeah.
with kids live in that area because there's a lot of townhomes as well as single family houses that are affordable. Our next question is, do students typically get their insurance through Duke or do they use Obamacare? Most of my classmates that are students here are on the student health plan just because it's usually covered through your program, or it's just really affordable if not. So a lot of people do that. But I have friends whose spouses are on plans through the ACA network. So my next door neighbor, for example, he's a graduate student and his wife stays at home with their son, and she got a pretty affordable plan through the exchange. They're really happy with that. But.
Yeah, most of the students in my program that I know of are on the Duke student health insurance. Like Alex said, it's pretty affordable. I don't have much experience with Obamacare, and so I'm not really sure. If students are using that, I'm not aware of it as much. So the next question says, I am planning on moving to a neighboring town. How can I find out if there are people who would like to carpool with me? And this is one respect in which Duke is really good, and Duke actually helps you coordinate these particular efforts because they have a website that's dedicated to helping people who are trying to carpool connect with each other. I don't remember what the site is called. I think if you Google it, Duke Carpool or something like that, you'll be able to find it. But there you can put in your address, and you can see others who are in your area. And I think you might even be able to send like a message or a request, and then that person can either respond, and you guys can talk about schedule and stuff like that. I think you may even have to put in what your schedule is on the website so that other people can see like what times you're coming to Duke and what times you're leaving. So yeah.
I know there's also some parking permits specifically for people carpooling. So I know people that
Right,
weren't
right,
necessarily they hadn't thought about carpooling until they realized like they would get a really great parking permit.
That's right.
So they and like their friends coordinated efforts, and now they share a carpool permit and they drive to work together because they can park really close to where they work now in this like special parking situation. And then also there are public transport options between Durham and the surrounding areas. Like I know there's buses that run between Durham and Chapel Hill or Durham and Raleigh, so people who can't find carpoolers in their area might be able to take advantage of public transit options. Let's see. This says under the Duke Medical Plan, if the student health center is the student health center the required first place to turn for basic health care? I don't think it's required, but it is free. So when you pay your student health insurance plan and your student fees, there's a health fee included, which is used to, I think, subsidize the student health center. So whenever I have like a problem and I just want to see a general practitioner, I often will go to student health because I don't have to pay anything, and it's really, it's on campus. It's easy to walk in and get an appointment most times, and you can schedule an appointment online if you have a really tight schedule. So I often will use that, but I have gone to specialists directly and paid a copay to see like my OBGYN or to go to like an allergist, and I don't think I had to go to Duke. I'm sure I did not have to go to Duke Student Health to get their permission or something to do that. So if you have a specific type of doctor you want to see, or you would like to find a family care doctor or somewhere outside of the Duke Student Health system, that's an option.
Yeah. So I think like Alex said, I don't think it's required, but it is pretty convenient, especially being on campus, and the Duke My Chart, which you were talking about. Scheduling stuff online, being able to communicate with your doctor, either for refills or just general questions, is pretty convenient. The doctors are pretty responsive in terms of getting back to you quickly. So I found it, even though it's not required, I found it to be a useful place to go for sort of your general yeah, general concerns. The next question says, what are some quality public elementary schools in Durham? I'll preface this by saying that, sort of evaluating the quality of public schools, there are different ways to go, right? So, one way is just to ask people and, get their sort of opinion on which schools are good and bad. Another way is to sort of look at, I guess, more technically objective measures of school quality, which generally can be obtained through the North Carolina State of Education, which gives a sort of report card for each school and for each public school in every district, including charter schools and magnet schools. So, according to the latest ratings I saw, because the North Carolina Department of Education just put these out recently, and it was in the newspaper. But I think I saw some of the good schools here. I think I saw Cedar Creek did pretty well. I think also Watts did pretty well. But beyond that, not really sure. But yeah.
Yes, there's a list, as he's saying, with the report card is publicly available and is one way of doing it. I think there's other like Rate My School type websites where you can hear feedback from specific parents. But I think one nice thing about the public school system here is there's an extensive range of magnet schools that are focused on specific topics, or like there's performing arts, or more like science and math, or for example, the public school that our house is zoned for was recently added a magnet language immersion program that we're really excited about taking advantage of in a few years for our kids, where they can either learn Spanish or Chinese full time. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Are there any good kids museums or cultural centers in the area? I think we touched a little on some of our favorite museums, but we can focus on those. I like the Museum of Life and Science. It's in Durham. It's like halfway between campus and where I live, so it's really convenient. And they offer really affordable family packages where you can pay one fee and then come to the museum as much as you like all year long, and you don't have to be the same. It's just like there's a cap on the number of people, but not the specific people. So, for example, if my in-laws or my parents come into town, they can take my kids to the museum with our membership, and that's great. That has like a pretty extensive outdoor section with lots of different animals, both native and sort of imported animals like lemurs. There's the Lemur Center itself. A lot of people go on tours there. You can see all sorts of primates and learn more about them there, and that's through the Duke University Lemur Center. Other museums, I guess you talked about the Life and Science, or what is it, Natural History Museum?
Yeah, Natural History. Mm-hmm.
And there's a good art museum actually on campus. Duke has the Nasher Museum, which as a student I think you can get in for free. And my children last time we went were young enough that they were also free. And I was a bit nervous about taking little kids to an art museum, but we went to the Miro exhibit, and it's like really beautiful and a lot of abstract and very colorful paintings as well as sculptures, and they really enjoyed it, I think.
Yeah. So one museum that we really like, we live a little closer to Raleigh. One museum that we really like is the Marbles Museum. They have really hands-on stuff. So similar to the Life and Science Museum as well, where they have really hands-on stuff. They have really cool exhibits for like sports-related things, or they have a really cool water exhibit. There's a little money center where it's sort of supposed to help the kids and like get acquainted with money and the idea of banks and saving and that kind of thing. So we really like going there as well. And when we're usually there, we usually go to the Museum of Natural History, which is next door and is free. The Marbles Museum is $5 for kids and for adults. So. Yeah, so. Mm-hmm.
I also forgot there's a really great art museum in Raleigh, the like North Carolina's, I think it's like at the State's Art Museum, and it's free as well. They have sometimes specific exhibits that you pay for, but the general museum and its whole outdoor campus is free, and they have like a really extensive walking trail with outdoor sculptures, which is a lot of fun to take little kids to if you otherwise would feel like uncomfortable taking them to a really quiet, informal art museum environment. To like let them get outside and go right up to a big sculpture is a lot of fun.
The next question says, can you speak on what it's like being the spouse of a PhD student? I guess I'm going to try to just from my wife's experience, what it's like to be married for to a PhD student. So for some of you guys coming to the PhD program here, your schedule isn't as I don't want to say your schedule isn't as like firm. Like you have classes and you'll have other things, but then you'll have talks and other things that will pop up. So sometimes I have stuff that's at night, and so sometimes my wife is generally putting the kids to bed by herself or other things like that. But I would say there are lots of perks too. She has, because we're married, she has access to the Duke recreational facilities, and when they have events for families, for football or basketball, other things, generally we all get to come. So yeah, I would say there are some things that are put some pressures on the spouse of a PhD student, but there are other things that are also really nice and benefits is sort of being a part of the Duke community as well.
Yeah, so my husband just defended his PhD less than a year ago, so I can speak as being his spouse too, and from my own schedule, what that must do to him. I think we've been really beneficial that we both have a lot of flexibility, like you were saying, in your time after your core classes are done. If you do research during your PhD, a lot of times that's up to you to determine when you do it and how you do it, where on campus, if you can do it from home or if you have to be in a lab. But that's been really great for having kids because we're able to have a very balanced and flexible schedule where if one person needs to go to a conference or a meeting at a strange time, the other person can almost always cover for them, and it's not a big deal. And we try to be pretty balanced about, if one person goes to a conference, the other one will go to a conference later in the year. And we like that too because we're able to send our kids to childcare less time than we would have otherwise if we both had really strict 9 to 5s and we had to clock in or something. It's nice to be able to like bring them late or pick them up early. So then another question is, does Duke provide any job assistance for the spouses of students? I can't speak to this directly because we've not used any of these services. It's possible, but I'm sure that like people have thought about this question a lot since Duke is one of the biggest employers in this area. So there's a lot of people coming here to go to school here or to work in the hospital system or to work otherwise at the campus. So I'm sure there's a lot of different sort of job opportunities.
Yeah, I don't know specifically if Duke was involved in the process, but 3 other people who were in my cohort, their spouses work at Duke. Not, like I said, I don't really know if Duke aided in that sort of job search or not. But like Alex says, Duke is a pretty large employer, so there are lots of different, and Duke having a medical center, there are those opportunities, and then there are obviously opportunities on the campus working in various departments. So at least in my department, there are a lot of spouses that also work on campus. The next question is, what is the job market like in Durham and the surrounding areas? So I think one of the things that the Triangle is really well known for is for sort of being a sort of tech hub. And there are lots of different, so in terms of the technology aspect, there are lots of different companies like NVIDIA and Cisco and IBM and other companies that have very large centers here. They have very large offices here and that employ a lot of people. Like Alex said, Duke is also a very large employer. And then the hospitals, Duke, UNC, Wake Med, the regional hospital, which is affiliated with our. So I would say that the job market, I think, is comparatively to other areas of the country is pretty good. But maybe you can.
Yeah, so in addition to the tech companies, there's a lot of pharmaceutical and like biotech companies too. So I know a lot of people that wanted to work in industry that are graduate students here even found jobs through these sort of companies after school. So clearly there's a lot of jobs in those sectors. The next question is, can you recommend some resources for finding good childcare providers, and what are some quality preschools in the area? Yeah, so when I originally was applying for the childcare subsidy at Duke, they have this requirement that you find a 4- or 5-star center. And to educate myself about what that was, I went to there's a state-sponsored website that lists the ratings for different daycares, and I was shocked at how many different daycare providers there are in the area. So you can take time to look through there and see the ratings the schools have gotten, and that's based on the teacher to children ratio as well as what facilities they have and sort of their track record for turnover of staff and things like that. So you can sort of look at those more objective numbers as one way. And then other options is just talking to people who have kids on campus, or like going to the grandparents listserv and asking what people have done. A lot of people take advantage of the childcare services close to campus. There are 2 daycares that are affiliated at Duke's campus. There's the Little School, and then I think there's a Bright Horizons at Duke campus. And those are both, I think, 5-star centers and are very highly rated, and people like them a lot. So if it's convenient for you to take your children with you to Duke's campus to these centers, that's an option.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would just emphasize what Alex said, that really one way that people try to get information on this is to connect with the grandparents listserv. And there's a staff member, Sandra Ponzi, at the graduate school that's sort of in charge of this, and if you're interested, can connect you with this listserv and with other people who are in a similar situation, have kids and are looking for a child care facility. So I would take advantage of that.
Oh, and related to this, before our kids went to daycare, we actually kept them at home for the first year. And so thanks to my husband's flexibility and my flexibility, as well as hiring a part-time nanny, we were able to do that. And so we took advantage of putting an ad in the Duke newspaper, the Chronicle, and looking for someone interested in doing part-time babysitting that way. And I know also, I don't think Duke has this, but UNC has a sort of a yearly list of people interested in doing babysitting or pet sitting or other sort of services that they put out. So we looked through that list too and contacted people that lived in this area that were interested in like the specific schedule requirements we wanted to have someone come in.
The next question is, what is the closest place where I can take the kids to just run around and play? Well, I think the closest place to campus is really Duke Gardens. So, Duke Gardens has some wide open areas where kids can run around and play. So when the weather's nice, you'll see people out there throwing balls around and kids just running around. They also have a little like a koi pond where they have fish, and there's all kinds of different plants and stuff that you can see. Some unusual ones that you won't find other places. So that's really the closest place. You can ride the bus for free over to East Campus, and the playground that's near the Watts Elementary School is walkable from East Campus. So those are 2 places that are close.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think Duke Gardens is amazing, and I never realized, it sounds like, oh, a garden on campus. Like my undergrad had flowers too, and it's this really world-class arboretum, and it would take you days to look at everything in it walking around. So it's a really great place to explore, and as you said, they have a lot of open space where there'll be other kids kicking balls or playing, so you can let your kids run around there. So what are some nearby family-friendly restaurants? Oh, one of my favorite topics, eating. So we're just now getting brave enough to take our kids more regularly out to eat, because with twins, we were always afraid that the adult-to-kid ratio wasn't great for going out, but we're actually finding it more manageable. Our first sort of like restaurant we went to with them is Elmo's Diner on 9th Street, because it's super kid-friendly. You'll be hard-pressed to find a table that doesn't have small children at it. So if you don't want to be surrounded by children, don't go there during like brunch or dinner. And that's great because the wait staff are super friendly, and nobody seems like put out if your kid is like eating with their hands or staring at other children instead of eating, or whatever our kids do in public. So we went there first, and we've been there numerous times, and they have a great diner sort of menu, so lots of kid-friendly choices, and you can get breakfast any time of the day. And then from there, recently we went to Nana Taco, which is a taco restaurant fairly close to campus. And again, we went there because we like Mexican food a lot, but this is a place we had gone before as just the 2 of us, and saw that everyone else had kids there. So we're like, oh, we can bring our kids and we won't be out of place.
Yeah, so we really like Elmo's Diner as well, and like Alex said, it's really kid-friendly, and even their menu items are, things that kids would eat as well, so we like that. Another place that we've been that didn't initially strike me as a kid-friendly place, but there's always kids there, is a place called Mo Nuts. Yeah, so it sounds weird. I mean, they only sell like donuts and breakfast sandwiches and then sandwiches, but it's really good, like really, really good donuts and really, really good sandwiches. So that's another place that we like that's fairly close to campus as well.
Yeah, another option too is there's a ton of food trucks in the area, and they come to different places. Sometimes some will come to campus, sometimes they'll all sort of converge in one location. They call it a food truck rodeo. And
Mhm.
so sometimes they'll have those during the day, either at the farmer's market or other places downtown. And that's fun because you can try a lot of different foods while you're sort of in an outdoor environment. So you're not under any pressure to like make your kids sit still and like use their forks or be real proper. With, you can tell I have really we're dominated by small twins.
It's okay.
It's
Yeah.
chaos.
Yes, yeah, but you're right. For family-friendly places, it's hard where you're going somewhere that's really quiet, or where your kids are sort of expected to sit really still and not get up, and so yeah. So these places I think we've mentioned are all places where if the kids are up, or stuff is falling on the floor, generally it's loud and you won't hear it, or it's not a big deal. So.
And if you can get a babysitter, there's so many other like really fantastic restaurants in the area too if you do want a night away from kids. So that's something that my husband and I like to do when we are able to get our in-laws or my parents to watch the kids. We'll go out to eat because Durham's really known for its foodie culture
Yeah.
and the amount of like really interesting restaurants in the area.
Yeah. The next question is, does Durham have good parks and hiking spots for families? Now, I don't know specifically about Durham, but in the area there are some really good parks that for families. One of them is called Crabtree Lake Park. It's in Morrisville, which is kind of in between Durham and Raleigh. There you have huge play structures. I think there are 3 of them at that park. But then hiking and biking trails there, and there's like a lake where in the summer they have boats that you can rent and stuff like that. And there's another one that's a little further away that's called Jordan Lake. And I think there, so besides the other stuff that I mentioned about Crabtree Lake, there they have, I think, spots that you can rent for tents. And they used to have cabins, although I'm not sure if they still have that, but they used to have cabins that you could rent as well. But.
Yeah, a similar camping option that's in Durham is, River State Park. They have a lot of great hiking trails and a really pretty river that you can walk on, but if you want to stay overnight, they also have camping, and that's within Durham. And then I was just on the Durham Parks website the other day trying to get directions to a new park I'd never been to, and I saw that there's 60 or more parks in Durham itself, which I was really surprised by. So that's my new mission for this summer and the nice weather is to try a different park every week because there really are so many, and they all have really different focuses. So as you said, some will have a lot of different play structure, some will have like water that your kids can play in, some have really good hiking trails, some have a lot of open spaces for running around. So I'm hoping to try a new one each week because there's a lot that I've never heard of till I was on their website. Let's see. The good next question is, can you speak on your experience with on-campus housing? The short answer is no, because I've not lived on campus. I know some people do. It's much more common for the undergraduate population. I think almost all of them live on campus until their more senior years of undergrad. There are some, I think, options for graduate students, but we have never lived on campus, and I don't think I actually know anyone right now that does. So.
Yeah, same here. We've never lived on campus, and I don't know of any graduate students in our program that live on campus. So.
But there are housing opportunities right around campus. So I know plenty of people that live in some of the apartments that are literally right next to the campus. Yes. So they do walk to work.
Right. The next question is, what are some good places to shop for children's clothing, both for babies and older children? So I'll just tell you specifically about us. We generally shop at Goodwill, a store. So we generally buy secondhand clothing for our children, and the grandparents will buy them, like
so much stuff,
new clothing and stuff like that. But for us, we generally, in our area, there's a really Goodwill store that generally has lots of clothing, but also baby items. So we found strollers, bikes for kids, lots of toys and other types of things. So very kid friendly at some of these secondhand stores. There's another store that also sells specifically like children's items, but I'm not remembering the name of the store. Anyways, but it's specifically a kid's store, and they sell generally pre-owned items as well. But
yeah, so there's a couple like big box stores for baby stuff in the area, like Babies R Us or Bye Bye Baby, if you have like a really specific thing you're looking for or you want that kind of store. We also rely a lot on getting secondhand stuff, either hand-me-downs from friends or from these stores, mainly because like kids grow out of clothes so fast that like it's brand new practically, even when they're done wearing it. So I know people often will sell or give away stuff on the grandparents listserv, sometimes maternity clothes or baby equipment or children's clothing. So that's one option. And there's a lot of consignment stores in the area that focus just on children. And another option for baby equipment is there's a Triangle Mothers of Twins, Triplets, Multiples, I'm not sure the exact acronym, sale that happens a couple times a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. And so it's not just equipment for twins or triplets, but they offer all sorts of baby stuff for sale. So that's really a good opportunity to see a lot of different choices in one place. Let's see. So please talk more about your experience with the grandparents group. So I originally came to it through applying for the childcare subsidy, and the coordinator was like, "Oh, well, let me add you to this listserv." And initially, I didn't. There was, I would just follow the listserv and see what people were selling or different events people were asking. Has anyone taken their kid to this park, or does anyone know a good babysitter? But recently, over the last couple of years, they've been doing a lot more scheduled events, which I really like the lunches. There's several times per year, maybe once a month, a lunch on campus that you can bring your partner or your children to, and they provide food. And one time they had chair massages, and it was a nice way to get to know other people and sort of feel celebrated in having a family and a graduate student. And then, as you said, they had lots of events to the circus or Disney Frozen on Ice or a museum day, which are a lot of fun. And I think they have meetups sometimes, at a park, where you can everyone at their leisure can come and play and meet each other.
Yeah. So my experience has been great. I had a similar experience to Alex, where I came to the grandparents through the childcare subsidy. I saw the childcare subsidy, I was really excited about it. I applied, and then the person said, "Hey, let me add you to this." And so yeah, it's a really supportive environment. It's sort of, you don't have to be involved in all these things, but these things are available: play dates, scheduled events, and other things that are happening, so that if you want to get involved and meet other people, other graduate students who also have children, and get together and that type of thing, that's possible. But it's not like you're not forced to do that, obviously. But I think that was a benefit for us being here. So. Well, and I would also say, I've been at some other universities as a graduate student where this didn't necessarily exist. The child care subsidy or this type of group, at least that was coordinated through the graduate school, didn't necessarily exist. Not, it may have existed informally through people who got together, but not on this scale. So I would say that Duke is very supportive of families and mindful of graduate students who have children, as represented in sort of the resources that they're putting into the subsidy, and also sort of organizing this grandparents organization. So the next question says, some cities have movie cinemas and playhouses that cater to children and families. Does Durham have anything like that? That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know of any movie theaters that have specific playhouses in them. I mean, some have arcades, but I don't think that's necessarily what the question is trying to get at. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know some movie theaters will have specific showings during the day that are very parent and baby friendly.
Right.
So I have friends that have taken their babies to a movie before, and there's specific times a day that are known to be when everyone else might also have a baby there, so it's okay, and nobody's gonna look at you for your crying baby. We haven't taken our kids to very many movies yet, but then playhouses. So I think they're talking about maybe theaters that offer plays that are child friendly. Duke has a lot of performing arts options that are family friendly. They do a concerts in the garden series that's free. So in Duke Gardens, you can bring your kids and sort of picnic on the lawn and listen to music. I know they put on a lot of plays on campus. There are probably some that are more family friendly than others. UNC does a version of the Nutcracker most years that's super child friendly, and you can bring your kids to the ballet. Let's see. The next question is, are there any easily accessible vacation spots, road trips that you would recommend? That's one of the greatest things about Durham for people with and without kids, is it's in between the the mountains and the beach of North Carolina, which I happen to think are both really beautiful. So it's, a couple hours to Wilmington, and there's great beaches there. Wrightsville Beach and the North Carolina coast in general is really known for its nice beaches. There's a lot of also cool wildlife and things to do on the Outer Banks, which is a little further of a drive. And then the mountains are not too far from here. Again, it would take you maybe 3 or 4 hours to get to Asheville, which is a really cool town in the mountains that has a lot of good restaurants and art scene and a lot of young people. So we've gone there before with our kids. And then closer to here, we often go to a lot of smaller towns in North Carolina that are like 20 to 30 minutes away from Durham to do things. Like we went recently to a goat farm in Pittsboro or Siler City, which is maybe 20 to 30 minutes from here, and they let you touch all the baby goats, and we got to eat goat cheese, and my kids loved it. We sometimes take our kids to Hillsboro, which is like a very small and historic town, maybe 20 minutes from here, and there's like a nice sort of downtown Main Street you can walk on, and like an ice cream parlor and restaurants and things, so we often go there.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that I enjoy too are what Alex has mentioned. We've gone a lot to Wrightsville Beach, which is about 2 hours east of here, and Cure Beach. And in that area, there's also an aquarium, so you can go to the beach, and then the aquarium is right there. There's also a Civil War kind of site right there off the beach as well. So there's lots of nice things about the Carolina beaches. Myrtle Beach is about 4 hours away in South Carolina, so not too bad. And then the mountains as well, both here in North Carolina, and then the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia too are accessible, about 3.5 hours from here. So if you enjoy like hiking and camping out and that kind of thing, there are lots of sort of options. Yeah. The next question says, what time management advice would you give an incoming PhD student parent? Well, I guess from my perspective, this is how I operate. I try to get most of my work done here, so that when I go home, I at least when my kids are like up and around, I'm not trying to have to juggle like, oh, I have work to do, but also want to give attention to my kids and my family. So one strategy that I've taken is to work here. Here on campus, get most of my work done here. I mean, obviously there have been times where I've had to do stuff at home, but as a general practice, I've taken the approach that, in terms of trying to manage my time, that most of my activities will be here, and then when I go home, I can just kind of hang out and play with my kids and spend time with my wife.
Yeah, I think this is one of the hardest parts of being a parent and a graduate student for me is time management, because really so much of your schedule and your productivity is up to you and deciding how you use your time. But when I've asked my friends who don't have children who are graduate students what the hardest part about grad school is, they also say time management. Right. So I think this is hard no matter what, just figuring out how to be your own boss somewhat, and to prioritize the many different things you need to work on and figure out how to get them done and in what order, and when do you need to seek help and when do you need to just try harder by yourself on something. So that's really helpful to have a supportive mentor or program. Mm-hmm. So I feel like my mentor and my graduate program are very supportive of me in that way, and I feel like I can therefore take advantage of the flexibility grad school has to offer. And as you said, like when I'm home, I don't really try to do a lot of work, but then when my kids are asleep, I do sometimes do more work. So it's useful to be able to like take that break and just focus on your kids, or when you're working, just focus on work and not have to watch your kids at the same time. Okay. So the next question is, do many of the businesses in the area offer Duke or family discounts? I know a lot of restaurants around campus do. I've seen signs that if you have a Duke ID, you can get 10% off. So that's something to think about, that you can eat at a lot of the restaurants around campus or in Durham for cheaper. And then I think there's some other services that do. Like I remember when I first came here, people's cell phone bills, certain like through Verizon, or I don't remember exactly where, like you could get a discount if you were affiliated with the university, so that was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And then some of the museums, I think, have student discounts, so that's nice.
Yeah. So definitely on the cell phone, you can get discounts. So we have Sprint, but they also offer discounts through Verizon and AT&T. So that's something you can take advantage of. The museum, some places will give you free admission as a Duke student. Other places it's just discounted. I remember when we went to the beach, we went to the Ripley's Aquarium, and there it was free admission for myself and like two other people.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's not something that I knew about, but that's a couple. And then, like you said, some restaurants are on campus. You can get a discount as well. I know there's a sort of wider list of discounts that you can get somewhere. I don't remember if that's on the Human Resources website, but it is located somewhere on the Duke website. So I think if you search for that, you would be able to find a more comprehensive list of the discounts that are offered. But yeah, like Alex said, there are many places that will give a Duke discount.
This isn't actually a discount, but it's some perk of being a Duke student that I recently found out about, which is there's a lot of basketball games throughout the year where they offer family admission. If you have a Duke student ID, you can, to some of the games, you can bring up to 4 guests. So you can bring your kids, your spouse, whoever. Sometimes it's just 1 or 2 guests, but there are like a lot of basketball games throughout the year in Cameron, which is a really neat environment to see a college basketball game, and people take it really seriously here, and the fans are like really enthusiastic, so it's a lot of fun to go, and you can bring your friends on those days.
Yeah, it's really cool. The best way to get information about that is to follow the Duke Ushers on Facebook, and they'll announce there's going to be a grad student game or a family game. Generally, when you bring kids, you get to sit in a specific section with kids, so there'll be other people who have kids there as well. I took my daughter, and it was a really cool experience for her. She was doing the cheers, and, so she had a really great time. But yeah, that is really cool. I've taken family members and friends who root for Duke as well. So yeah. It said the next question says, you spoke about mentors. What is the mentoring system like at Duke? I'll speak what it's like in our department. In our department, in your first year, you're assigned. It's not technically an advisor. I'm blanking on what the actual term is, but it's someone who sort of oversees your first year and just checks in on you to see how things are going. In your second year, you will pick an advisor, and then generally, obviously mutually agreed upon, you and the advisor. And then the advisor will oversee your second year paper and then your dissertation proposal. And stuff like that. And I guess the mentor experience really varies from in our department, right? Some mentors are really hands-on and are really supportive. And like my advisor has had me over to his house several times, not just me, but other students that he advises. And we have lunch and things like that. And other advisors have a different sort of strategy where it's a little bit, if you need something, you can come to them, and it's a little bit more hands-off, and they just kind of let you do your thing. And so in our department, at least, there seems to be some variability in terms of the mentor experience. But I'm sure you can speak to
my
as well.
program is similar in that when you first come to the PhD program in neurobiology, you haven't picked a lab to work in. So there's a director of graduate studies, or people call the DGS, and that person's a faculty member who sort of runs the graduate training program, and you can go to them for advice, and I think you meet with them anyway just to talk about what lab rotations you're doing and what classes you're picking, and if you're having trouble with classes. So that person helps sort of shepherd you through the first year, sometimes 2 years. And then you pick a research mentor whose lab you'll work in, and then you have, as you said, you can have very close workings with that person. I see my mentor almost daily, and then we have formal meetings with the whole group once a week, and he has us to his house for holidays, so we see him a lot, and it's good. Other people's mentors are more hands-off, or you operate more independently. And I think it's also important to find mentors outside of that too, not necessarily that are on your research focus, but sort of career and life advice mentors. So in my program and in many programs, you have a committee of faculty members sort of overseeing your dissertation research and your defense of your dissertation. And the chairperson of my committee also has children and a similar career trajectory to what I hope to have, so I get a lot of career and life advice from her. And then there's also just other maybe more proximal mentors you can find, people that are doing postdocs or people that are a few years above you in your program that can give you a lot of really good advice about the stage of your career that you're at now. And so I think we've reached the end of our questions and the end of our hour, and thank you all of you for joining us. We hope this was helpful. A recording of this chat is going to be posted on the website and also emailed out to admitted students, and there's usually also a lot of great links on the website to many of the resources we've mentioned today.